The first thing that broke him was not the sleepless nights or the headlines screaming his name, but the quiet way sunlight fell across an empty cafe table at noon, revealing just how exhausted a man could look when no one was watching. When the young widow by the window studied his face and gently remarked that he looked tired in the same way her husband had before he left this world, something inside the lonely soul cracked open, and the noise of his carefully controlled life finally fell silent. Before the story unfolds further, take a moment to pause. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet power of human connection, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel Kindness Tales. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that need them most. Armin Halim had built an empire before he turned 40, yet at noon on that bright weekday, he sat alone in a small corner cafe, as if hiding from the success that once defined him. Outside, the city pulsed with midday energy. Office workers crossed streets with coffee cups in hand, delivery trucks hummed past, and sunlight bounced off glass buildings with relentless cheer. Inside, the cafe smelled of fresh bread and roasted beans, and soft instrumental music drifted through the air. Everything suggested life was moving forward, except Armin. His tailored suit fit perfectly, his watch was expensive, and his phone vibrated constantly with messages he refused to answer. He stared through the window, eyes dull, shoulders heavy, as if the weight of years had settled there all at once. Armin had not always been this way. Once, he was a man fueled by ambition and belief, working day and night to prove himself worthy of a world that doubted him. Success came quickly, then ruthlessly. Contracts multiplied, companies merged, and accolades followed. But so did isolation. Friendships faded, family gatherings were postponed endlessly, and love became something scheduled and transactional. By the time Armin realized how alone he was, the silence had already learned his name. Across the cafe sat Mira Kazmi, a young widow with tired eyes and a calm that came from surviving what she never thought she could. She was there every afternoon, sunlight catching in her dark hair as she worked on her laptop or read quietly. Mira had lost her husband 2 years earlier to an illness that arrived suddenly and refused to leave. She learned grief not as a dramatic storm, but as a slow, daily ache. Yet she returned to life one day at a time, carrying sorrow with grace rather than bitterness. The cafe had become her refuge, a place where daylight reminded her she was still alive. When Mira noticed Armin that day, it was not his wealth or posture that caught her attention. It was the exhaustion carved into his face, the familiar look of someone running on emptiness. She saw in him the same quiet unraveling she had seen in her husband during his final months, when smiles were offered but energy was gone. That recognition stirred something compassionate in her, and the moment passed between them like an unspoken truth. From that day onward, Armin returned to the cafe often, always during daylight hours, as if chasing something he could not name. He sat near the window, ordering the same simple drink, pretending to read while his thoughts wandered. Mira remained across the room, a silent presence that felt grounding. They did not exchange words, yet something gentle began to grow in the shared space. Armin found himself breathing easier there, the constant tension in his chest loosening just enough to remind him he was human. Armin's life outside the cafe was unraveling. His company faced a public crisis after a failed project affected thousands of people. The board demanded answers, investors threatened withdrawal, and the media circled eagerly. For the first time, Armin felt genuinely afraid, not of losing money, but of losing the identity he had built his life around. Late nights returned, but now they were filled with doubt instead of drive. He skipped meals, ignored calls, and stared at his reflection wondering when he had become someone he barely recognized. Meanwhile, Mira faced struggles of her own. She worked as a freelance editor, her income unpredictable, her future uncertain. Some days the loneliness felt heavier than others, especially in the bright hours when couples laughed nearby or families filled tables with noise. Yet Mira chose to show up anyway, choosing courage over comfort. She believed healing was not about forgetting pain, but about letting light exist alongside it. One afternoon, sunlight poured through the cafe windows so brightly it seemed almost deliberate. Armin sat slumped, a letter on his phone informing him of another major loss. His hands trembled slightly, and for the first time in years, tears threatened to surface in public. Mira noticed. She closed her laptop and simply sat there, her calm presence steady and unafraid of his vulnerability. In that moment, Armin felt seen not as a CEO, but as a tired man who had carried too much for too long. Days turned into weeks, and a quiet transformation began. Armin started answering fewer calls, delegating more, allowing himself moments of rest. He began walking instead of driving, noticing trees, faces, and the warmth of the sun on his skin. The cafe became a symbol of something simpler, something honest. Myra's presence reminded him that strength could look like softness, and survival could be gentle. When the company crisis reached its peak, Armin made a choice that shocked everyone. He took responsibility publicly, stepped down temporarily, and redirected resources to fix the harm caused. It was not a move driven by strategy, but by conscience. For the first time, he acted not to protect his image, but to do what felt right. The backlash was harsh, but the relief was immense. He felt lighter, as if he had finally stopped running. Mira watched these changes quietly, inspired in her own way. Seeing Armin choose humility and healing encouraged her to take a risk she had long avoided. She applied for a full-time position at a publishing house, believing she deserved stability and growth. When the offer came through on a sunlit afternoon, she smiled through tears, feeling her husband's memory not as pain, but as strength. Their connection remained unspoken yet powerful. Two lives intersecting without demands, without expectations, simply offering presence. In the daylight cafe, surrounded by ordinary sounds and simple warmth, both learned that healing did not require grand gestures. It required honesty, patience, and the courage to be seen. As months passed, Armin returned to leadership with a new perspective. He valued people over profit, balance over burnout. The company slowly recovered, but more importantly, Armin did. He slept better, laughed more, and allowed himself to imagine a future not defined solely by success. Mira continued building her career, her confidence growing with each passing day. Grief remained, but it no longer owned her. Near the end of one particularly bright afternoon, as the cafe buzzed softly and sunlight painted the room gold, both felt a quiet gratitude for the paths that had brought them there. Two strangers, connected by exhaustion and loss, had unknowingly helped each other rediscover hope. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that kindness can change lives and that healing often arrives quietly, please take a moment to like this video, share it, and subscribe to Kindness Tales. Your engagement helps keep stories of hope alive. And before this story ends, we have one special request. Please comment below with your thoughts, or share a moment when a stranger's kindness changed your life. Your words may inspire someone who needs it today. As the afternoon light slowly faded into evening, Armin and Mira remained where they were, grounded in the simple truth that even the most tired hearts can find rest in unexpected places. And sometimes, the smallest moments of recognition can open doors to second chances, reminding us all that we are never as alone as we think.